David as we are.
Exactly.
That's it.
I can start.
Okay, great.
Oh, good.
When the time
get somebody
came for
to-
David to die, he gave this instruction to his son Solomon. I am going the way of all the earth.
Exactly.
That's it.
Sorry.
Okay.
I am going the way of all the earth. You must now be strong. Show yourself a man and keep faith with the eternal your God, walking in God's ways, carrying out the laws, commandments, rules of justice, and directions of God as written in the Torah of Moses, so that you may succumb in all that you do and whatever you turn to. In that way, the Eternal will see to it that the promise about me comes true. As God says, if your children are careful how they live and walk before me, faithfully with all their heart and soul, one of your descendants will always rule Israel. Moreover, you know what Joab, son of Zeruiah, did to me, what he did to the two commanders of Israel's army, Abner, son of Ner, and Amasa, son of Jether, killing them, shedding war blood in peaceful time, and spilling war blood upon the girdle hitched over his loins, and upon the sandals on his feet. Do what you know is wise, and do not allow his gray head to descend in peace to Sheol. But be kind to the family of Barzillai of Gilead, and let them be among those who eat at your table, because they shall be friendship when I had to flee from your brother Absalom. There was also Shimei, son of Gera, the Benjamite from Bahurim. He cursed me with a terrible curse time I went to Mahanaim. Then he came to greet me at the river Jordan, and I swore to him by God that I would not put him to the sword. But you must not treat him as though he were innocent. You are wise and know what to do with him. Send his bloody gray head down to Sheol. Then David slept with his ancestors and was buried in the city of David. David ruled Israel for 40 years. He ruled 7 years in Hebron and 33 years in Jerusalem. Now Solomon sat at the throne of his father David, and his rule was secure and strong. What is Sheol?
It's supposed to be like hell, I believe.
Yeah, that's what we talked about last week.
Yeah.
Sheol is like hell or a bad place in the world to come.
Hades. In
Yeah.
Greek, right?
That's what I heard too. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it comes up a lot in the Psalms.
We're Natalie Calder.
Sorry. I can't talk. I'm on a thing now. All right, bye-bye.
Ruthie. All right, yeah. So this is like, it's interesting that the rabbis are putting this reading alongside the reading of Joseph's last, right?
Vayechi, yep.
Yeah. So that.
And Jacob. Well, Jacob. Vayechi. It's Jacob.
Oh, Jacob's who's
The beginning.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. So David's passing the things along to Solomon, his son, in this reading, whereas in the Torah, it's Jacob to Joseph, right? Is that how it goes?
And all of his sons, like before he dies, he blesses them.
How old was David? It doesn't say. Usually they tell you how old he was. They just said he ruled for 40 years, but how old was he when he died?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know that.
They always say what age they were when they died, but they didn't mention it here.
In the
Right, I
5
think-
books, they mention it.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's definitely a Torah thing. Yeah. In the prophets, you don't get too many. Oh, well, yeah. Joshua, they say how much Joshua lived to be an old age too, I think. I think he was in his hundreds, but.
Yeah.
Anyway, any other comments? This is David's last hurrah. And actually,
What's really nice is when it continues to say there will always be somebody that will continue the Israelite tradition, meaning there'll always be an Israelite. If you notice, it says that over and over again. I was very impressed with that. If you go back, you'll see where it said that. I don't know if you can go back, but
Wait a second.
go back to the next page. Let's see. It says,
There it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with
and
all
if
my
you-
heart and soul, one of your descendants will always rule Israel. I think that's powerful. I love when I read this. I don't know, it gets me excited because it's been going on for centuries.
I know, it's so true. Yeah. It's so true.
It's really cool, you know.
That's right.
All right, now we're back to the Torah.
Yep.
Torah.
Okay, let's see. Vayechi. Let me just get to the right page. Whoop. Oh, there you go.
And is this the last that we're going to do Genesis? Is this the last?
Yeah. Next,
This is
the week after is Shoftim. I mean, not Shoftim, Shemot. You know,
Shemot.
Exodus,
Wow.
which is Exodus, but the Hebrew name.
Exodus, yeah.
Names.
Shemot, yeah, I should say Shemot means names, yeah.
You want to continue, Monique?
Yes, yes. Jacob lived in the land of Egypt for 17 years. Jacob's days, the years of his life, were 147.
There you go.
When Israel's time to die drew near, he summoned his son Joseph and said to him, if I have but found favor in your sight, please put your hand under my thigh and treat me with faithful kindness. Please do not bury me in Egypt. When I am laid to rest with my ancestors, carry me out of Egypt and bury me in that burial place. He replied, I will do as you say. He said, swear it to me. So Joseph swore it to him. Israel then bowed down at the head of the bed. After these things, they said to Joseph, look, your father is fading. So he took his 2 sons with him, Ephraim and Manasseh. When they told Jacob, saying, look, your son Joseph has come, Israel rallied and sat up on the bed. Jacob said to Joseph, El Shaddai appeared to me in Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me, saying to me, behold, I will make you fruitful and multiply you. I will make you a multitude of peoples, and I will give this land to your seed after you as an everlasting possession. Now then, your 2 sons born to you in the land of Egypt, before my arrival in Egypt, they are mine. Ephraim and Manasseh will be to me like Reuben and Simeon, but your progeny whom you engender after them are yours. They will be called by their brothers' names in their family allotment. And I, as I was coming from Padan, Rachel died in the land of Canaan on the road, only a stretch of ground before reaching Ephrath. I buried her there on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. When Israel saw Joseph's sons, he asked, who are these? And Joseph said to his father, they are my sons whom God has given me here. He said, Jacob, bring them to me, pray that I may bless them. Israel's eyes had grown clouded with age, he could no longer see. Joseph brought them over to him, whereupon he kissed and hugged them.
Okay, can I just butt in here for a second? If we go back, it's so amazing to me. I feel like we're setting up the blessing of the sons, which was done by Isaac and with Jacob and Esau. But the big thing that I was thinking, which really jumped out at me this evening, is this idea that Jacob did not want to be buried in Egypt at all. And there's this, it's always this thing, it seems to me, there's this theme in the Torah. There's Egypt and there's Israel. And the two are kind of somewhat odds with each other. I mean, I'm not saying that as far as the countries go, but historically, these two peoples, because if you remember, this whole idea of Egypt is, if you remember back to Abraham first had children, Ishmael, through an Egyptian woman, right? Hagar. And that was kind of insulting to Sarah. Remember that? And so here it was kind of like, and then Jacob is just like, just don't bury me there. And it's just amazing to me. And then, we already know the history. All of Israel is going to be enslaved there. So it's like there's this.
Why was it that Jacob didn't want to be buried in Israel? I don't understand that.
He wanted to be buried in Egypt. He wanted to be buried in Israel.
Right. In Egypt. He didn't want to be buried.
He wanted to be gathered among his people.
I see. Okay.
But
I thought him know that he was an Israelite now. I thought that's where I was coming from. Okay, but okay.
Right. And also Jacob was having these, he does say, these conversations with God, the idea that the people are going to be brought back to this land that was established by Abraham by just the burial grounds, I think. I mean, here comes Dr. Ed. Hello, Dr. Ed.
I am so sorry
Hi,
I'm
Dr.
late.
Ed.
We're all late today. I was late. I was really late.
We were
Sorry.
all late, so it's okay.
All right. So we're getting into the blessing. Why don't we continue with the blessing of Joseph's sons, which also it's. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Monique. Go ahead.
Israel then said to Joseph, I never expected to see your face again, and here God has shown me your progeny as well. Joseph then removed them from his knees and bowed down before him to the ground. Then Joseph took the two of them, Ephraim with his right hand to Israel's left, and Manasseh with his left hand to Israel's right. And he brought them close to him. But Israel stretched out his right hand and placed it on Ephraim's head, even though he was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, crossing his arms, although Manasseh was the firstborn. He then blessed Joseph, saying, the God before whom walked my fathers Abraham and Isaac, the God who has shepherded me ever since I came into being until this day, the angel who rescued me from all harm, bless these lads. Through them let my name and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac ever be recalled, and let them greatly multiply within the land. When Joseph saw that his father had placed his right hand on Ephraim's head, it seemed wrong to him. So he took hold of his father's hand to move it from Ephraim's head onto the head of Manasseh. Joseph said to his father, not that way, father. This is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head. But his father refused, saying, I know, my son, I know. He too shall become a people, and he too shall be great. Yet his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations. So he blessed him that day, saying, by you shall give the people of Israel give their blessing, saying, may God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh. And he put Ephraim ahead of Manasseh.
You know, this happens a lot. There's quite a theme here. Do you notice this happens a lot? That the younger one and the older one get mixed up a lot.
But here, there's nothing deceptive about it, though. That's different.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
I
being
just
done
think it's very
consciously.
interesting. But they're consciously saying that this one is this one, and I don't know.
It
I
always
find
works
very
out that the
interesting.
younger one seems to outdo the older.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
that's what I'm
always
saying.
gets-
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This is always like not what you expected, you know. Okay.
Yep.
Anyways,
Right.
continue on, Monique.
But one other thing I want to point out too is that Jacob even says that Ephraim and Manasseh are going to have names as great as your brothers, right? Which is true.
Yeah.
That becomes a true prophecy, which I always get. That's the stuff I get excited about when it's like, oh wow, that's actually that does
It's
happen.
the same like with Ishmael. Like God, says that he'll be made a great,
Right.
Right.
So,
Israel then said to Joseph, I am dying now, but God will be with you and bring you back to the land of your ancestors. And I have given you first among you brothers the Seshem mountain ridge, which I won from the Amorites with my sword and my bow. Jacob then summoned his sons, saying, gather around that I may tell you all what shall befall for you in days to come. I'm going to stop.
Okay. I'll continue.
Awesome.
Thank you, Monique. That was a lot of reading tonight. Okay. Assemble and hearken, O sons of Jacob. Hearken to Israel, your father. Reuben, my firstborn, you are my strength and first fruit of my vigor. Excessive in exalting yourself, excessive in strength. Licentious one, boil up like water, no more. Oh, you mounted your father's bed, then defiled my couch. He mounted my couch. Oh, he mounted my couch. I'm sorry, that was not a question. Okay. Simeon and Levi are partners. Instruments of violence are their plan. Let me not enter their council, not let my being join their assembly, for they killed a man in their wrath, and in their whim hamstrung an ox. Cursed in their wrath, so fierce, and their fury so harsh. I will disperse them in Jacob, scatter them in Israel. You, Judah, your brothers shall heap praise on you, your hand on the neck of your foes. Your father's sons shall bow down to you. Judah is a lion's cub. You flourish, my son, from the prey. He kneels, crouches like a lion, like a lioness. Who dare stir him up? The staff shall not depart from Judah, nor the scepter from between his legs, and until he comes to Shiloh, and the peoples fealty is his. He tethers his ass to a vine. His ass is foul to the choicest vine. He cleanses his garments in wine, his robe in the blood of grapes. Eyes that sparkle with wine, teeth whitened by milk. Zebulun shall dwell as the seashore. He will be a harbor for ships, with his father's reach near Sidon. Ishkar, a bony donkey, lies between the folds. He saw how good was the resting place and how pleasant the ground. So he bent his shoulder to the burden to be subjected to forced labor. Dan will plead his people's cause as one of Israel's tribes. Let Dan be a snake on the road, a horned serpent on the path, biting the horse's heels so its rider tumbles backward. I await your help, Eternal One. God shall be raided by raiders, but shall raid their rear guard. Asher, his food is fat. He provides delicacies for a king. Naphtali, a mountain ewe born, bears lovely lambs in the folds. Joseph is a wild she-ass son by a spring, the wild she-ass at Shur. They harassed him, shot arrows at him. The archers were foes to him, yet steady stayed his bow, quick his arms. Though the mighty one of Jacob, through the shepherds Israel's rock, by the God of your father who helps you, Shaddai who blesses you, blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lies below, blessings of breasts and womb, blessings of your father, surpass my parents' blessings, the bounty of the timeless hills. Let them be on Joseph's head, on the brow of the prince among his brothers. Benjamin is a wolf that rends in the morning, devouring the booty, in the evening, dividing the spoil. I'm sorry, right now. Okay, all
What
these
did
are
you
the
think
12.
of? So these are the 12 tribes, right? Did any stand out to you?
Yes,
Did any stand out to
yes.
you as I mean, there's some that are really bad. Like I wouldn't want to be in
Yeah,
Reuben's.
but what I was thinking is some of them were terrible things that are going to happen to them,
It's
and
so
yeah,
poetic too.
Right,
it's
right.
very poetic. It was definitely very
Yeah.
poetic.
I just
A
want to,
minute, I'm sorry.
yeah, I just want to add that out of Judah, I thought Judah's was probably the most heartfelt and kind of the most positive. I would just say positive. And
Yeah.
one of the great kings comes out of the tribe of Judah, and that is David. So that's kind of an interesting correlation there.
I wonder if that's
But
because of how
Benjamin is they kind of make Benjamin is like he devouring the booty in the evening, dividing the spoil. So he kind of gets a little good piece of stuff, a little bit.
Yeah, he doesn't go hungry. He won't starve.
He won't stop, right? Okay. Well, I just think it's funny. I
It,
always remembered that something about Benjamin. I don't remember. I remember studying this with my husband a long time ago. That Benjamin was really respected. I just remember that. Am I dreaming, Gary? Was there a lot of respect for Benjamin at some point?
I'm not sure.
Oh,
I mean, I
thought there
know that
was.
he's very special to to Jacob, him and
Yeah, he was
Joseph,
very
because they were.
special in some way. That's what I remember. Okay.
I wonder if
Okay.
Judah gets the more positive blessing because of how he was willing to sacrifice himself for Benjamin.
Oh yeah, definitely. Judah got much more goodies than the others. I could see
He
that.
really grew a lot, like.
Yeah, interesting. All
absolutely.
right, so let me continue here. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and thus did their father speak to them as he blessed them, blessing each one with a blessing that befit him. And he gave them a charge, saying, when I am gathered to my people, bury me with my ancestors in the cave that is in the field of Ephraim the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, facing Mamre, in the land of Canaan, the field that Abraham bought from Ephraim the Hittite, as an inalienable gravesite. There they buried Abraham and his wife Sarah. There they buried Isaac and his wife Rebekah, and there I buried Leah. The purchase of the field and the cave in it was from the Hittites. When Jacob was done charging his sons, he drew his feet into the bed. He then breathed his last and was gathered to his people. Joseph threw himself upon his father. He wept over him and kissed him. Joseph then charged his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. Ooh, wait a minute. That's unusual. They don't
Not in
usually do embalm.
Egypt.
What?
Not
Oh,
in
this
Egypt.
is Egypt. Okay, you're right. Joseph then
Yeah.
charged and embalmed his father. So the physicians embalmed Israel. When his 40 days were completed, for it took the embalmers that many days, Egypt bewailed him 70 days. 70 days? That's a long amount of embalmment. That must have been quite an embalmment. That must have been like the what do you call it? The most luxurious embalmment ever. The days of bewailing him passed, and Joseph spoke to Pharaoh's household, saying, "If I had found favor in your sight, please speak to Pharaoh and say, my father adjured me, saying, see, I'm about to die in my grave that I acquired for myself in the land of Canaan. There must you bury me. Now then, give me leave to go up and bury my father, then I will come back." Pharaoh said, "Go up and bury your father as he adjured you." Joseph then went up to bury his father. With him went all Pharaoh's officials, the elders of his palace, all the elders of Egypt, and all Joseph's household, and his brothers and his father's household. They left in Goshen only their little ones, their flocks and their cattle. And with him went the chariots and charioteers, so the camp was very numerous. When they reached Goram Ha'atad on the other side of the Jordan, they held there a great and solemn lamentation. He observed a mourning ceremony of 7 days for his father. When the land's inhabitants, the Canaanites, saw the mourning ceremony at Goram Ha'atad, they said, "This is a solemn mourning for Egypt," and they called the place Abel Mizraim. It is on the other side of the Jordan. Thus his sons did for Jacob exactly as he had commanded them. His sons conveyed him to the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave of the field of Machpelah, the field that Abraham had bought in an inalienable gravesite from Ephraim the Hittite, facing Mamre. Joseph then returned to Egypt, he, his brothers, and all who had gone with him to bury his father. After burying his father, Joseph's brothers, seeing their father was dead, now said, "Perhaps Joseph still bears us enmity and intends to repay us for all the harm that we inflicted upon him." So they brought a charge to Joseph, saying, "Your father left this charge before his death, saying, thus shall you say to Joseph, please, I beg you, forgive the transgression of your brothers and their sin, though they inflicted harm upon you. Yet now please forgive the transgressions of the servants of your father's God." Joseph wept as they spoke to him. His brothers also prostrated themselves before him and said, "Here we are, your slaves." Joseph said to them, "Have no fear, for I am in the place of God. Though you intended me harm, God intended," I can't read because there's a little picture here. Can you just go up a little? Okay, good. Joseph said "Have no fear for me. I am in place of God. Though you intended me harm, God intended it for good in order to accomplish what is now the case, to keep alive a numerous people. Now, therefore, have no fear. I will provide for you and your little ones." Thus did he comfort them and speak straight to their hearts. What a good guy he is.
Yeah,
Huh?
it's an incredible.
He's a really good guy. He's a really good guy. Okay, Joseph dwelt in Egypt in his father's household, and Joseph lived 110 years. They all live nice, long lives. Joseph saw Ephraim's grandchildren, the children of Machir, too. Manasseh's son were born on Joseph's knees. Joseph then said to his kin, "I am dying, but God will surely take care of you and bring you out of the land to the land that God promised to Abraham, to Israel, and to Jacob." Joseph adjured Israel's children, saying, "God will surely take care of you. Bring my bones up from this place." Joseph died aged 110 years. They embalmed him, and he was put into a coffin in Egypt. But I thought they took his bones to Israel. I'm confused.
Well,
was
they put him
Jacob.
in the coffin. They had to put him in the coffin in Egypt before
Yeah.
they could schlep him to
Okay.
Israel.
But
Yeah.
that's what happens 100 or 400 or 200 or 400 years later, when Moses brings the
That's right.
Israelites
That's right.
out of
I
Right.
forgot
they
the I
put in
forgot the
Joseph's
time.
books. Yeah, we have to
My
wait a little
timing
while.
is off, right?
But I just wanted to say, like, this is one of the best. I mean, I honestly think out of all the Bible, this is the most amazing act of forgiveness of
Yes, I
all
think
of
that
it.
Joseph was like he was like what they say that there's a word in Hebrew when they say uh what is it called when you're one of the great compassion, what is it called, Gary? There's a name
When you what?
when
When you
when
It's
you're
not
when
tzaddik.
yeah, but no more than a tzaddik. There's another name for it. A chacham. I don't remember. I forgot. Anyways, maybe it was
Chacham is
Yiddish.
somebody is intelligent. Chacham
No,
means
no, no. I'm not
intelligent.
thinking that. It was another word, and I can't think what it is. But they like he's like one of the most compassionate people. He's like he I don't know what they call it, but anyways, that's what I was
He was
thinking.
a mensch.
Yeah, I know he was definitely a mensch, but there was more. There's a name they call it when somebody is beyond like the regular speaking. It's like a prayer type of thing. I can't remember it. My mind's gone blank.
What
I've
about
lost
the
my memory.
what about this right here? Chazak, chazak, v'nit hazak, v'nit hazek.
That's nice.
Be strong, and we strengthen one another. Right?
Right, right, and
We
that's
always
what
say that at
Joseph
the
is like.
end.
Joseph strengthened one another. He did.
But I mean,
He,
we say that at the end of each book of the Torah.
right, right, right. Yeah,
Can you say that again, Gary?
Chazak, chazak, v'nit hazek.
yeah.
Be strong, and we will strengthen one another.
You know,
We
in
will
camp
strengthen
we
each
used to
other.
say Hazak Hazak Viamatz. What does that mean? The Viamatz.
Viamat.
Did I get the wrong
I'm
pronunciation?
not sure.
Hazak
But
Hazak
chazak,
Viamatz.
chazak, v'nit hazek. I know that. I remember
Yeah, but
that when I
there's,
was
you know what
little.
Hazak Hazak Viamatz is? I don't know.
Not
Oh well.
sure.
What's
Something
that
about
ding
be
dong?
strong, be strong.
What is that bell that I keep hearing?
Oh, Dr. Ed just came back in the meeting. I think he's having a hard time getting back in or out of the meeting.
Oh, okay.
And that is somebody joins the meeting. But
Oh, I see.
I love it. I love it. It's, of course, I told you it's my favorite story. It's always my favorite story. No, thank
But I
you.
hate to tell you this, Mike. Every week you tell me this is your favorite story.
It's my favorite. Did I tell you? Did I tell you?
No,
I must be getting
I
old.
said every week you tell me this
I,
is your.
Because he doesn't want you to forget.
I know.
I must be getting old.
Love
This
it.
is my
I love
favorite story. I mean, to me, I always get totally. I just think of it, and I think that it. I honestly feel that this really happened somehow,
it. Yeah, right.
and the beauty of it is not so much that Joseph took revenge out on his brothers, but I think the one thing that Joseph was able to do, because I really feel that part of Joseph's story is that Joseph was very afraid when he went in the pit and when he got brought down to Egypt, and
Right,
also
right,
probably in the dungeon when he was in jail.
Yeah.
So I think the fear, he had enormous fear, and I think he was able to instill that same amount of fear back into his brothers by playing that huge charade with them, and to think like, hold on, you were gonna leave me for dead in this thing. You didn't care what, and then plus they themselves told Joseph, look it. The other one is gone, meaning like Joseph, like as they were explaining the situation
Yeah,
with
right.
Jacob in the whole family. The other one is not anymore. So Joseph, right when they said that to Joseph, Joseph's thinking, "Wow, they think I'm dead. They think
Yeah.
I'm absolutely dead, and they just haven't thought of me." So
Yeah.
it's just an amazing story, and that he doesn't want revenge. He doesn't. I mean,
Yeah.
he gave them back what they gave to him essentially, and I don't know if that's revenge.
I
But
think, but I was going to say, I think that I've always said that, I think part of the reason he acted like that is because he didn't want to recognize him and say, hey, you SOBs, remember the dream I had? Remember yeah, see, I told you someday you'd be coming to me begging and bowing down, you losers.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
instead, I mean, he accuses them of being spies, and he does put them through. But part of it, maybe a part of it is to get back, but I think more of it is to just help them save face for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit.
Right. But also, there's a lesson there that gets learned through that whole charade and that whole. Whereas I think what you're saying too is like if he just came out and said something like that, then there's the it's there isn't much of a learning experience maybe. Some of them would love him, others might go, "What? Are you out of your mind? You're that
Yeah.
guy." But it also like prepped their hearts, like what else is going to happen with this guy? Because they had this. There was this unpredictability. There's this like, what's going to happen with this guy? What is he going to do next? Because they knew
they were worried too.
They were worried. It's unbelievable. It was just.
But I mean, they were worried also because of their guilt over what they had done. Remember, they were saying, "Oh, see now because of what we did to our brother, this is what's
Yes.
happening to us now."
Right.
When he wanted to bring Benjamin, when he asked them to bring Benjamin,
Yeah.
so they had that guilt. They were controlled by that. But what else is interesting in here that we didn't mention yet is what about that message? That was a phony message that was sent, telling that before Jacob died, he asked Joseph not to take any revenge on them.
Yeah.
They did that out of their fear. That wasn't even true.
That's not even a true
I
message.
know.
You're right.
Yeah, he never
just
did
made
that.
up to make themselves feel better, right? Yeah.
Gosh. Just
You know,
that one last, if we could save ourselves just one last time, we'll invent this story that Jacob never said. You're absolutely
Yeah,
right.
right.
Because they were afraid still that that Joseph would take revenge on them. They were
You know,
still scared at that point.
I have an
Yeah.
interesting take on this. This is the only story so far in Genesis where they were afraid of somebody. They weren't really afraid of God. And that's kind of interesting. Joseph then said to his kin, "I am dying, but God will surely take care of you." They weren't that afraid of God. They were afraid of Joseph.
Joseph, right. That's true. Yeah. You're
This
right.
is kind of
Because
interesting.
I don't think they were very spiritual people, though, like Joseph was. That's the thing.
Wow.
I agree
Yeah.
with you, Ed. I think they weren't that into God as much as they were fearful of their brother. Yeah.
Well, put this in perspective also. Uh, how many people are we talking about in Israel right now? We're not talking about a lot of people. It's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So we're talking about 3 generations. So how many possible? Well, I do realize that, that Jacob was a pretty busy guy. He had 12 kids, maybe a lot more. He's 12 kids. So let's say they don't talk about the women. So let's say he had 20 people, all right? And each one of them had 4 or 5 of them. Okay, so that's 100. And then go back another generation, maybe 20, and the one before that maybe 10. So we're talking about Am Yisrael Chai is 130, 140 people. We're not talking about huge. I tend to look at this always historically rather than religiously. We're talking about
I understand.
the whole nation of Israel is 150 people.
Maybe a little bit more than that, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. But isn't that remarkable? That to me is remarkable that we're talking about that little amount of people that's going to turn into this great nation, and then that's going to lead the world. That's the thing. Like, to me as a Christian, it's like, without Israel, we cannot have Christianity. Like, that to me is like, that comes down to the 130 people that go into Egypt for 400 years, that come out of Egypt, that become like the light of the world, and that many other peoples will look at that story and feel some sort of redemption, some sort of promise, some sort of hope. To me, that's mind-blowing as far as history goes. That's the top of the totem pole in my mind. It's like, how could this little tribe of people around in the desert trying to survive a famine, and the brother gets into Egypt to save them, pulling them into Egypt where they're rescued and they're treated, well, they're again, you have this issue with the Egyptians and the Hebrews. They don't like each other. They don't like to eat with one another. It's a, we've heard all these things, but the importance of this story historically, in my mind, is it's you're talking about countries, nations have been built on this faith, this hope for a new promise to keep people going. I don't know. It's just mind blowing to me.
And the fact that well, we didn't get to that point yet, but they, despite everything they went through in Egypt, they still thrived and became way more numerous.
But
And
I
think
got to
the
say
Torah-
something that's going to throw everything off for you guys. There's something that bothers me. If indeed all of this is so great, I'm looking at today and how much hatred there is in the world right now. And I don't see that we're any more civilized than way back then. I don't really see it. I have to tell you, I'm discouraged. I'm discouraged when I see they say that there's at least 50% of at least the country. I can't talk for the other countries, but 50% of this country have so many beliefs and lies right now. That's upsetting to me. Do you know how many people believe a lot of the lies that have been put in those conspiracy sites and stuff? It's upsetting, and they really believe the lies. That's what's upsetting me. I'm very upset by this. I don't know why other people aren't upset by this, but there's a good 50% of our population believe lies.
But Ruth, it's interesting what you bring. You're absolutely right, Ruth. What's interesting is I saw an interview with Carl Sagan. He passed on.
Yes.
His wife was my professor at BU. His ex-wife was my professor, and Lynn Margulis. And he said, this is just another phase of history. The United States will collapse as every other great nation in the world has always collapsed, and we will collapse. And this was 25, 30 years ago. And this civilization will again collapse, and will have to start up all over again. Look at Greece, look at Rome, look at Turkey, we're all going to fall apart again, and this will all grow again. However, the amount of technology will be there just as it was there thousands of years ago. They built on that technology, and they again became, but it's just a cycle, and we too will fall to pieces.
That was a very, very hopeful thing you just said.
Well, no, I mean, what's interesting enough is all the religions will fall apart again, and all will have to recycle all this stuff all over again, just as the Roman gods and the Greek gods became what we consider quote unquote modern religions, and they're going to fall all apart, and a new religion will come up, and a new civilization will come up, and we'll just be reading a canticle for Leibowitz all alone.
I haven't read that book yet, but I would want it. Well, it's interesting, though. I mean, it's interesting what you say. I mean, I think, there's definitely, we're always going to be maybe learning more about history, learning more about quantum physics. I mean, there's so many things out there. I mean, I always think of science, and I know that Dr. Mike was always talking about how science is, he as a scientist would found the pattern of reality and material things so intricate and so beautiful that he just thought, it has to come from some intelligent source.
See, but I'm not talking about science. You guys are talking about science. I'm talking about a belief system that's the lie. That's what's bothering me. People are believing things that are not facts. That's bothering me more than anything.
As ridiculous as we know it.
I know. Okay. I just had to say my piece. That's all. That's all I
wish your son-in-law well, but at some point.
You know why I think my son-in-law is protected? Because everybody else in the family has gotten the shot but him. So He's protected by everybody else in the family.
But all
'Cause
he needs, does he wear
Yeah.
a mask? No.
When he, he wears, he does wear a mask where they tell him he has to wear a mask. Like if he goes inside a supermarket, he'll wear a mask because they tell him to. He's not crazy. He doesn't like it, but he doesn't fight it. That isn't fight. He just fights not getting the vaccine.
So
He wear, what can I say?
what does his wife say? What does your daughter say?
Well, my what? Okay, I'm not going to even talk about my daughter because my daughter's another whole issue, which I don't want to get into right now because she's not. She feels she can't talk to him. Okay, and it's a very awkward situation right now. But all I can tell you is he's been protected more than other people that haven't been vaccinated because everybody around him has been vaccinated. So I believe that's why he's not been sick at all. I mean, he's never ever had anything, and he's in his form of his occupation is he works outside, so he's not indoors with people a lot because he works outside. He's a contractor and he works on he's a landscaper and a tree surgeon, whatever they call it. He does the trees and everything, so he's outside all the time in his work, but he does have to talk to customers. But I don't know. He talks, maybe he's outside. Well, they're inside in the door. I don't know. He hasn't been sick, and he's gone through this whole 2 years with never anything happening.
You know what?
Yeah.
It's like cancer. It's only one. All you need is one hit.
I know.
Hit to the DNA that isn't repaired. One hit.
Know. He thinks he's fine. So like I said, I don't try to. I love him in every other way. This is what's interesting. I think he's a wonderful person. He's a great father and husband. And she's just nuts about this.
Yeah.
That's all I can tell you.
Anyway.
Yeah.
It's a strange time.
It is a strange time. I just said my piece. That's all. We're not going to be resolving anything.
So let's talk about something good.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Gary Flett has agreed at 5 a.m. on December 25th to lead a very short service for all of the people who will be giving of themselves on Christmas to feed the hungry.
5 a.m.
Wonderful. Nice job.
That's awesome.
Oh.
Can I bring my bass?
Baby. Why not?
The bop bass?
No, I don't think that's. We're only going to do about 10 minutes, but it's a symbolic 10 minutes because it is the Sabbath. And
That's nice.
Did I say it right, Gary?
The what?
Pekuach nefesh. Save yourself and
or souls. Nefesh
soul. Yeah, right.
Save, and he's going to do this just to remind us that it is the Sabbath, and we are working on the Sabbath because others are hungry. Thank you, Gary.
That's very nice.
Thank
Gary.
you, Dr. Ed, for asking.
Well,
that's very nice.
Are you guys cooking meals or what are you doing?
We will be feeding. It's been a hell of a week. We will feed probably 1,200 on.
She doesn't know what you do every Christmas.
Yeah, we Project Ezra, which is now Temple Tefereth Israel, Temple Tefereth Shalom, Project Ezra, for the last 35 years has cooked, paid for now for the last 10 or 15, paid for and cooked for all of the hungry in our communities of Malden, Melrose, Everett, Chelsea, Winthrop.
In Medford, isn't there? I've delivered some.
So what he does is he is the one who's established this, Monique, and he's gotten all these volunteers to help out so that every homeless people that are either homeless or that are under, like, economically they couldn't afford a meal for Christmas, they go and they not only cook it, they prepare it, they package it, and they deliver it to these people. Isn't that nice?
About 300 who'll come in face to face, 400 face to face, and around 800 we think will be delivered.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a wonderful.
Monique, where do you live?
I live in Arlington.
You're welcome to join us. 1:30 in the morning.
She might
Like-
have some other plans that day, but I did it one year. Someday I'll tell you what happened the year I did it with my daughter. It didn't work out as well as I expected it to be, but I know that you've done a great job. But I can't do it now because my son-in-law isn't Jewish, and we do get together on Christmas. So that's the reason why I'll be there. But all I can tell you is that I think what you do is extraordinary. I really do. I think it's wonderful. I really do.
It's 90. It's mostly my son now, who we've been unbelievable. This has been, out of 35 years, the most difficult situation.
Because of the masks and the separation.
The
and,
mask, the separation.
Yeah.
People don't want to volunteer, although now that's changing really quickly.
Well, that's
But
good. Glad to
I
hear
can't
that.
get people to volunteer to open up the schools at 1:30, and thank goodness the mayor of Malden intervened today on my behalf. It's
He's
just
a good guy. Yeah.
it's
Incredible.
just been incredible. And Mike Bodo has brought attention to the poor and the hungry on Christmas for many years. You've brought this to and you have shown the world that there are hungry people out there. We didn't know it. We all knew it, but when you show it, it's so important.
It's very nice.
How many TV stations do you want?
All of
You want all of them this time? I'll call my friends and tell them.
you going to be there?
Yes, I'll be there. I'm not gonna miss the service. That's Saturday mornings. That's our time.
Yeah, it's only going to be a few. It's only going to be more of a sing along, but it's in Gary's hands. It's in Gary's hands, and I give it. Gary, in 35 years. Well, I've known Gary for more than 40 years, and he's never said no. Never said no to anything.
Wow.
Never said
Very
no,
nice.
Gary. Even when he didn't agree with me, he never said no.
Oh, were you kidding? No, because anytime you how do I say it? You always present like another viewpoint, whether you agree or not, and it's always, I've always appreciated that about you from years ago. You
but
always
Gary-
told me that you always said, sometimes people think I'm crazy, I'm not really, I'm just trying to, everybody's running one way, and I just want to put the other side of it out there because nobody's mentioning it. And you always do that.
Right.
This is really an important program to me, and we never want a situation like last year where we almost ran out of food. Almost.
That's why this year I want to stay around too, not just for that, but because I usually deliver the meals, which I really enjoy doing. But then I don't get to see so many people that volunteer. There are times that you only see these people at Project Ezra.
Mm-hmm.
They come out of the woodwork. People that you don't normally see, from TTI, that we don't see around TTS anymore, or people like that. You don't get to see everybody. I never do because I leave shortly after So that's why I wanted to stick around more this year.
Did you used to do this out of St. Paul's Church in Malden?
Used to about 10 years ago.
Because I've done it 2 or 3 times. I used to help with putting the food in the packages.
Yeah, we don't do it out of St. Paul's. One, they threw us out about 10 years ago. They made it into a professional building, a professional center, and now we need a much larger kitchen. Things have got out of hand, much larger kitchen, and we do it at the Malden High School now.
Oh, okay. I did it when it was at the church.
We
church.
did a service there one morning too, I remember.
Yeah.
Someday I'll tell you the problem we had with my daughter and I trying to help out the year I did it. It was a disappointment to us because something happened that shouldn't have happened, but I'll tell you about it another time. But it was something that it wasn't your fault. I think it was a matter of coordination of, they had too many volunteers and they actually said for me to go home. And my daughter came from the T. She went from Brookline to Malden by the T to come and it was not a very great experience for her. So it was not that it was your fault. I think this was all when you were early in the morning. I came at 10:30 in the morning, and I was supposed to set up the tables, and they already set them up by the time I got there. And they said they didn't have anything. They didn't have anything.
Always has a job for everybody.
Yeah, but I'm saying at that time they told us there was no work for us. There was no.
Well,
help.
10:30 is late, but now.
Well, that's when there was certain things they told us to come for certain times, and I came at 10:30. What can I say?
So can I tell you a terrible story, which is funny, before I hang up?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Terrible. Two funny stories. The first funny story is Jonathan has this characteristic, this unbelievable charisma, and he can tell people to do this, to jump off a wall, and they all say, "Sure, how far, how high?" And I tell people to do anything, they don't listen to me. Jonathan, even as a senior vice president of a drug company, he's like this. So it's snowing out like hell, and things are crazy. We're behind. It's crazy, and in walks the mayor of Malden. And Jonathan is running around, and I'm trying to support him because he knows what's everything going on. And the mayor says, "What do you want me to do?" And Jonathan doesn't even look at him, thinking, "I don't know. Can you go shovel some snow?" And next thing I know, I look outside. The mayor is shoveling snow. I said, "Did you tell the mayor to shovel snow?" He said, "No, that was the guy you told to shovel snow." And there was the mayor out shoveling the walkway.
Oh, that's.
I've
funny.
seen Gary.
That's
I've
great,
seen
though.
Gary picking up trash off the streets.
Oh, yeah. And then the other issue is we did this with another congregation. I'm not going to say whom, but Gary knows who. And this
Yep.
congregation we would be there. I'd be working 5-6 days in a row, like I'm going to be doing now, to get everything right. And at noon time, they come in and start screaming of us. We did it all wrong. We don't do this. And I
know which congregation that was.
Yeah, they never, well, as you know, I can be very bad. I'll leave it at that. So the following year, I was upset with them the whole year. The rabbi sent me an email, and I just told them off. I hope they never come back. They're destructive. They make people unhappy. And I went on and on and on and on, and sent it out. And I felt so good. I sent it out to the rabbi. Problem is, I sent it out to the wrong rabbi. I sent it out to the. I thought it was at the time Rabbi Kudan. It wasn't Kudan. The rabbi before. Anyway, I said, and I said, "You get my email?" He said, "You didn't send me an email." I go back and look. I sent it to the wrong rabbi.
Oh,
Did Kudan ever say anything to you?
Never. Nobody ever said anything to me. But I was I was so embarrassed.
You should have at least told David that you were so bad about it,
Anyway.
Anyways, listen, all of you have a good week. And